Hello, hello, and welcome to the My Sugar Free Journey podcast. I am joined today by Thom King. So Tom was nice enough to send me his book, which if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm holding it up, plus these beautiful stickers. I've got a t-shirt. I've got a lot of his products that we're going to talk about today. His sweeteners, which those of you who are longtime listeners, you know that I've gone black coffee, so I don't use sweetener in my coffee anymore. But boy, that glass of tea at night, right before I go to bed, I still love to use sweeteners in that. That little sweetener, little lemon juice, that's my crack at the end of the night. And, you know, we were just talking before the podcast started about how I don't really have steak sauce anymore. I don't really have, these barbecue sauces anymore. And it's so nice to get one because there's a company that sells a barbecue sauce that's sugar-free that my Kroger sells, and I'm trying to think of what it's called. It's like Walden Farms or something like that. And I bought one of them, and it was terrible. It was just so sweet. It was not good at all. But Tom's barbecue sauce, and we're going to talk about it a little more in detail as we go through this. But Tom's barbecue sauce, I can tell you, is really, really good. And the steak sauce, both wonderful, wonderful products. So let's get into it. So Thom, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aaron. I totally appreciate you being so generous with your time and hosting me on your show. That's a huge honor for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, anytime somebody's got a good product that serves the ketogenic or just the low carb community, I always want to get them on for a couple of reasons. While I don't have a whole lot of sweeteners and sauces and things like that in my life anymore, if you'd have told me on day one, hey, you're going to cut out all the sugar and all the sweet everything, I'd have probably said, no, thank you very much, and walked away. So I think that it's important to have these products available to you because sometimes you need, a crutch to get you going. And then they're still good, even if you've been doing this a long, long time. It's nice to be able to put some barbecue sauce on a good piece of meat or something and not have to worry about the sugar or the polyunsaturated fats or all the other junk that's so prevalent in our food supply today. So I commend you, and your products are very, very tasty.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. They're a labor of love, definitely.
So let's get into your background a little bit. What were you like before you discovered keto, and what brought you to this point?
That's a really good question. So, I mean, keto, I practiced keto on and off. Before it was called keto, it was called Atkins diet.
Right.
And so Atkins was a little heavier in protein, but I used Atkins and I used keto when I started to feel like I was getting fat. So what it was is it was a diet. So I would basically eat a fairly undisciplined diet, and I would put on 20 pounds, and then I would need to lose 20 pounds. So then I would adapt a keto or Atkins diet for a few months, lose the 20 pounds, and then go off again. And what happened is I created sort of a yo-yo diet. Or yo-yo weight. So my diet was up and down, which is super unhealthy for you. I mean, that's like, that is sort of the pathway for metabolic disease. So absolutely. I did that for years. And then I just sort of, I guess you would say, bottomed out. On a trip to Las Vegas, I went to dinner with some vendors, and they were buying. So naturally I was eating. And so I had a steak, a potato, a big slice of cake afterwards. We drank a bottle of wine, and I got up to my room at the Luxor Hotel, beautiful Luxor, and basically looked in the mirror and didn't like what I saw. And I felt at that point sort of the pain of my bad habits had exceeded the pleasure that I was deriving from them. And so I really leaned into making a lifestyle change. And I would say the biggest part of that lifestyle change was really focusing on my journaling. Like, I've journaled every single day of my life, for the past 15 years, maybe 20 years, but I really used journaling as sort of a vehicle of breaking bad habits. And part of the bad habit was eating anything that I wanted and not being mindful about eating, but, mostly, living to eat, not eating to live. So at that point, I just, put pen to paper and started journaling. And after about a year, I had a book. and I brought a friend of mine has a publishing company, and he hooked me up, and yeah, then the book came out, much to my surprise.
So let's talk about journaling for a little bit, because this is actually a relatively new thing to me.
Mm.
Because it was I was looking for something probably 2 or 3 months ago. I was looking for something to God, how would you say that? I was looking for something to kind of set my mind right first thing in the morning, to kind of set my intention,
Mm-hmm.
to maybe make a plan for my day,
Mm-hmm.
because the way my schedule goes is I'm at work by 4 a.m. I work until noon, and
Wow.
then I go to go to my second job
Mm-hmm.
at what? So I come home, eat lunch, go to my second job at 1, come home at about 7,
Mm-hmm.
and go to bed. So it's just boom, 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 boom. I just really don't have a whole lot of time to
Mm-hmm.
to breathe, really. And what I was finding is even though I've been ketogenic for years
Mm-hmm.
and have lost a ton of weight doing it, I was finding myself rushing so much that I was just kind of grabbing. It was,
Mm-hmm.
it was low carb, but it was just like whatever convenience food was around, because I just
Mm-hmm.
needed to get it in my mouth and go.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself taking the easy way out with what I was eating more often than not taking a few minutes, because what does it take? 10 minutes to fry eggs and bacon?
Yeah.
It doesn't take much time at all, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so much easier to cut a few pieces of cheese and just get out the door and go. Or just shove some deli meat in your mouth or whatever and
Mm-hmm.
go. And so the journaling for me was a way to kind of sit down and say, okay, I'm going to here's what I've got planned for today. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to be careful with this. I know that when I get tired, I'm,
Mm-hmm.
much looser with my choices. I only got 6 hours of sleep last night, so I need to make sure that I don't fall into this trap or that. And it was so helpful for me to kind of begin to help me think about my day. And it's not something I do every day, because I don't always have time to do it every day. But I wish there was a little more discipline with it. Even if I just woke up a few minutes early to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see? What did you see as the strengths of journaling every day?
Well, I mean, for me, journaling is super important because it sort of creates my mindset for the day. It also, if you're looking to make each day a masterpiece, I would say that what it does is it creates a foundation of where you want to go, like
Right.
mapping it out. And also, I mean, creating a positive mind shift will take you entirely through the day. So like my journaling, that I do, it morphs from journal to journal, from year to year, even from month to month. But I mean, usually what it is a reflection of the things that are, the things that are inside my head that I just need to get out on paper. But then there's structure to it too. Like, what is it that that I want to create or manifest,
Mm.
and that's pretty much where I just lay out exactly, what are the things that I want to come to fruition. And then I follow up with, what is it that I'm willing to let go of? Those are always good questions to ask yourself. Like, are you willing to let go of your fear of what people think? Are
Right.
you willing to, let go of, your fear of your own mortality or becoming infirm or, the injury or, whatever, our fear of loss? But I think it's a good opportunity to write those fears down so you can confront them, because people are so controlled by their fear. um, and then the next sort of part of my journaling process deals with gratitude. I focus on the things that I'm deeply grateful for, like all of the people that love and care about me in my life, and my successful businesses, and my beautiful home, my beautiful girlfriend. I mean, I'm grateful for all of those things in my life, because you can't actually have a negative mindset if you're living in a state of gratitude.
Mm.
And so that sort of sets my positive mindset for the day. And then I just finish it up with an affirmation, like a breathing affirmation, like with every breath that I take in, the things that you attract. Like, do you attract calmness, discipline, sobriety, loving kindness, the things that you really want to attract to your life. And then also, with each exhale, letting out the things that you no longer have use for in your life, toxic people, toxic thoughts, habits, and you just every day you make that discipline to be able to, to put pen to paper and write those things down, because, you would be surprised by how much more productive you are, and, how much more meaning your days carry when you sort of create that foundation, with your positive mindset through journaling.
Fantastic. So yeah, that's really interesting, and it's reminding me how much I really need to make that much more of an everyday thing. It's not difficult. It's just like I said, it's more of a discipline issue with me more than
It
anything.
is a discipline issue, and for me, I also have a hard time finding discipline sometimes. But I really think if you fill your head with things that that require discipline, because breaking a bad habit requires discipline. Like if
Right.
you are eating too many, like you quit eating sugar. I mean,
Right.
that took discipline. It still
Right.
takes discipline for you not to eat sugar.
Sure, yeah.
And I mean, there's another podcast that I follow avidly, and that would be Jocko Willink.
Yeah,
And
me too.
and
I like
Jocko
his stuff.
Willink, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
Jocko, how do I lose 20 pounds? Well, you lose 20 pounds. It's like,
Right.
hey, Jocko, how do I get up in the morning at 4:30 and go to the gym? Well, you get up in the morning at 4:30 and you go to the gym. So, a lot of times breaking a bad habit is just purely determination, determination and discipline.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So you looked in the mirror, you saw that things weren't where you needed to be. You knew about Atkins.
Mm-hmm.
How did you make that leap to go full time Atkins, or had you even heard the word ketogenic at that point?
Oh yeah, I was very aware of of keto, because
And what year was this? Just for
this
context.
was, I mean, I started my sweetener business in 1999,
Oh, okay.
and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then it was Atkins, and a lot of people were against Atkins, because of
Sure.
potential side effects. But I would say that it was maybe 8 or 9 years ago. I ran into some good friends of mine that have a sports nutrition company, and they were very, very much into keto, Quest Nutrition.
Okay.
And
Yeah. They were on like the first 4 or 5 episodes. In fact, I probably need to call them and have back on because nobody's heard that episode.
Oh, who did you interview?
I could tell you.
Tom Bilyeu? Probably Tom Bilyeu.
It was Tom. It was Tom. Yeah,
Tom's
it was definitely him.
Good friend. Yeah, founders of Quest Nutrition, and so
He's probably on 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, he's quite a guy. I mean, and all of the people that are involved in Quest Nutrition are good friends and amazing people too. But I would say that that was when I really started to see the keto as like a pretty big trend in the food industry, but I still wasn't on board with it, because I think that eating pizza and drinking wine and French fries and stuff like that, I just hadn't caused me enough pain yet. And I mean,
Right.
I was carrying extra weight. I was carrying 35 pounds of extra weight. It's not like I was carrying 235 pounds
Right.
of extra weight. So the pain of that had not really, had exceeded the pleasure that I was getting. I would say that the pain, the pain that I had was I felt like, I felt like an imposter, because I worked in the sports nutrition industry, and yeah, I was anything but healthy at that point. My blood pressure was 190 over 99. I was on blood pressure
high blood
meds.
pressure guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, now my blood pressure is 120 over 80 all the time. I mean, I can drink
That's
a cup
awesome.
of coffee, it's 120 over 80. So, I mean, I've got that under control. Also, I had a lot of acid reflux. That's gone. So, there was a lot of health benefits that I got from keto. I would say that, losing weight was terrific, but it wasn't really the motivating factor as much as it was just body health and brain function.
Yeah, that was really important for me. Is as much as I enjoyed seeing 200 pounds come off my body, watching my blood pressure fall, 20, 30, 40 points, that was pretty That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's an indicator that you're extending your lifespan.
Yeah,
So
going the right direction.
That's a plus.
You know, I was just talking to my wife about this just earlier today, was that one of the issues with my blood pressure was we called it medicine resistant. So the doctors would give me different blood pressure medications and it wouldn't do anything to my blood pressure. I mean, no matter how strong the medication, it wouldn't do anything. Well, I was just listening to a podcast, Peter Attia's The Drive, and he had a woman on talking about the generic pill industry. Mm-hmm. And basically, most of our generic medicines come from China and India. Yep. And if you are taking a generic pill that comes from China or India before about 3 years ago, the chances that you were taking basically sawdust and sugar in your pill were about 80%. The vast majority of generic pills that were coming through us they were just trash. They weren't anything. And so now I look back at all those years I was taking different medications and the doctors were, scratching the heads and couldn't figure out what it was they needed to do to bring my blood pressure down. I probably wasn't taking any real medicine. I mean, because I was always taking the generic medicine because I was always getting the cheapest thing. And after listening to that podcast, I was really upset. In fact, I want to.
Yeah, Peter's got an awesome podcast. I'm addicted to that one as well.
Yeah, I was. Have you heard that one yet?
You know what? I haven't. I've listened to his last two recent ones. I get so busy.
Oh yeah.
I get so busy that I don't catch up too often. But he did, like, I think about maybe it was 6 months ago, and he was talking about his Aura ring, and he was talking about if he has any alcohol at all, that it raises his resting heart rate and disrupts his sleep. And which that is absolutely true. Like, I can have like a glass of whiskey before I go to sleep, and it always affects resting heart rate. So, yeah.
So that's been my education for the last probably 6 or 7 years. However long I've been doing this now is our podcast like that. So I think it was really important. Anyway, we digress. So you're going low carb. You're starting to see some benefits. You've already got a sweetener company, which that's interesting. I thought the sweetener happened as a result of this. What was that sweetener company like in 1999 versus what you're doing now?
That's a really good question. The way that I actually got into the sweetener business is I was living in Arizona at the time, and I ran into this gentleman who had just come back from Paraguay. And he had like a variety of different herbs that he had brought back from Paraguay. And he had one in particular that was ground up into this paste. And he suggested that I try it. I tried it, and I was amazed by how sweet it was. I mean, it was probably in its natural state 25 times sweeter than sugar. And at that point in time, I just thought, wow, if there's a way that you could extract those sweet constituents from the leaf, this could be a really great way, like a natural version of NutraSweet, because aspartame at the time was sort of the go-to sweetener for Diet Coke. And at that point, it took me probably a good solid 5 years to be able to find a company that I could contract with that would use a natural water extraction process to get those stevia glycosides, that's the sweet component of the stevia leaf, out of it naturally. So there wasn't, we weren't using any kind of methanol or chemicals to be able to extract it. And that's how I got into the sweetener business. And I just simply got into the sweetener business because I had a terrible sweet tooth, like a really bad sweet tooth. And I mean, I talk about it in the book, and then when people meet me, they're generally shocked to find out that I used to take a bag of chocolate M&Ms and empty it into a can of Pepsi because Pepsi wasn't quite sweet enough for me. Oh, wow. So I know when people hear that, they're like, what did you do? So I was like a crackhead for sugar. So this was a good avenue for me to go down. And then real quick,
because I want to hear how it developed. But let's talk about stevia for just a minute.
Okay.
When stevia first came on the market, what, 6 years ago? Like when was it approved?
In 2008, Cargill got approval from the FDA to use stevia as a sweetening agent in food.
Okay. So 11 years ago. I know it
Mhm.
was a long time, or not a long time, but I mean, because stevia didn't exist when I was a kid, right? I mean,
Right.
it was something that, hey, sorry, my wife is sitting next to me. So that's interesting. So about 11 years.
Mhm.
Now, what is it? Because I don't, I tried to do a little research on this the other day
Mhm.
and I got distracted with something else.
Mhm.
There's some types of stevia extractions that are not legal in the US,
Mhm.
and some are. You can't have the full leaf in the US. You can only have
Mhm.
the extracted. What's the story there? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, that's a good question. You cannot use the regular stevia leaf as a
Okay.
sweetener. So you could use it as a dietary supplement. So you can buy it at stores and you can use it to make tea, but you won't be able to sell a tea that has stevia leaf in it as a food product. You have to sell it as a dietary supplement.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Also, the FDA has only approved stevia extracts that have in excess of 95% stevioglycosides as a food ingredient. So the stevioglycosides those are the sweet constituents that are in the leaves. So it's comprised of about 13 different glycosides.
Okay.
Um, so you have to have at least 95% of those. Um, in order for it to be food grade. And then there's a bunch of different stevioglycosides that people are using, or food manufacturers that are using them now as sweeteners. So there's like rhodioxide A, rhodioxide B, D, C, Reb M. So there's like a lot of different components that are being broken up, and food ingredient companies are sort of capitalizing on that right now.
Okay. Is there if a food ingredient company was using one glycoside versus
Mm-hmm.
another, or some like a 60-40 blend of one glycoside over,
Mm-hmm.
they could just call it all stevia, or
Yeah.
are there any naming conventions we need to be aware of?
Yeah, another good question. I mean, that's pretty much up to the manufacturer.
Okay.
So if you're doing a label claim, you could say stevia, and I've seen companies do that before and not be called out by the FDA. It technically would not be stevia if it's a stevia extract. You
Okay.
could use stevia extract, you could use stevia glycosides, or you could actually call out the exact glycosides that you're using.
Okay. Now, I assume that the stevia sweetener that I get from my local Kroger store might be a little different than, because you mentioned you've got a water extraction and
Mhm,
you're not using methanol or something else.
mhm.
Um, are there things that we need to be afraid of when we're using maybe a cheaper stevia supplement or
Yeah,
sweetener? I mean,
yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing that I would look out for is additives. So,
okay.
stevia extract is about 250 times sweeter than sugar.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies will add fillers to it. So it's more usable by the consumer, and also, so they can make greater profit. So
Yeah.
some of those fillers that I would look out for would be maltodextrin,
Okay.
because maltodextrin actually has a higher glycemic impact than sugar.
Right.
So I would avoid any of those that have maltodextrin or any dextrose, or lactose. I've even seen Trader Joe's had a stevia extract that had lactose in it, and I would just
And is there a difference
caution.
between the liquid and the powder?
There is a difference. I mean, liquid stevia formulations vary greatly. Like some liquid stevias contain vegetable glycerin, which is
Okay.
actually falls under a polyol, which is an alcohol sugar. And some of them just use grain alcohol with water. So
Okay.
the liquid is just basically reconstituted powder, and then a variety of different carriers in it.
Okay. All right. That's interesting because stevia is it's my sweetener of choice, and
Hmm.
I'll pick up whatever from the
Mhm.
store, and it's so new.
Mhm.
It's one of those things. Every time something new comes on, it sounds
Yeah.
awesome. You find out, in 40 years, it was giving everybody, tumors or something. You always want to,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that everything's on the up and up. Like
Mhm.
I cannot wait to see what we find out about what the Impossible Burgers are going to do to people in about 10 or 15 years, because I really think those are going to damage some people's health.
Well, I am not a vegan, and I mean, I don't think that people replacing meat with
Soy
plant-based
patties.
substitutes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's a really great idea. I'm sure this is going to get me plenty of comments on my socials, but I mean, I run into this a lot. I run into it where, you know, somebody will recognize that I wrote a book and give me a hard time, like, hey, all you do is eat meat and cheese, and you know, and you're really destructive to the environment. And they just don't understand, like,
Right.
meat and cheese isn't the only thing that I eat. I have a high fat diet, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm eating tons of meat and cheese, because while those have fat, they also have protein, and if you add too much protein, it's going to knock you out of keto. So my
Right.
primary source of energy is fat. I usually get that from avocados and nuts and some meat too, but you know, mostly just avocados and a lot of nuts. And yeah, it's just a misunderstanding. But also, I mean, the thing that comes up for me with people that are leaning into a plant-based diet is that human beings are not able to methylate vitamin B12.
Right.
So we actually have to find vitamin B12 or get our vitamin B12 from animal sources. And, you know, unless it's chemically created. And to me, it doesn't really make sense to be on a diet that you've got to supplement with B12.
Right.
You know, because you should be able to get all of your vitamins and nutrients from whole food. And if you're unable to do that, it means that you're not eating for your, you know, your body design as a human being.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think I don't think any human beings were ever really designed to eat large amounts of soy. I mean, that's just not something that should have ever been a part of our diet. But anyway, yeah, let's get off of this before we get all those nasty comments. Oops, sorry, my attack dog just came into the room.
The attack dog.
Yeah, she's about 3 pounds and she's
Aww.
vicious. We were talking about sweeteners. So you were developing these stevia these stevia sweeteners.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go through the history of your company. Where did it go from there?
Well, so I really wanted to get more into the ingredient business. We built a retail line that is right now, I think it's in 2,500 to 3,500 different stores. My goal was to
you're in stores? I didn't know you were in stores.
Yeah,
I thought it was mail order.
Under our other brand, like our brand Steviva is in Whole Foods, and like, okay. I don't really even, we have a third-party logistics company that takes care of all of our retail stuff, because for us, it's the consumer market's not as attractive or easy, and we're not set up to really work it well. Okay. But my goal was to actually create a consumer brand, and then try to parlay that consumer brand equity into an ingredient company. Okay. And what happened is, I mean, it did happen, you know, more quickly than I thought. And so we ended up getting more into food ingredients, you know, at that point.
Okay. And then when did you start developing the sauces?
Well, that's a good question. I developed those sauces selfishly because, you know, I wrote the book and I couldn't have ketchup. I couldn't have barbecue sauce. Right. Couldn't have teriyaki sauce. I couldn't have any of those. And I have a food science background. So I went into my lab and actually created them for myself, and then shared them with people. And they gave me the idea of, like, well, why don't you just sell these? And, right. Well, you know, the rest is sort of history. The brand has taken off pretty well. I think the book's done fairly well. It looks like it's doing well on Amazon.
That's good. You know, I made a mistake and married a Floridian, and so we went to, like, I want to go because we're in Texas, and we went to, I want to go eat barbecue because barbecue is meat, and you know, I can eat as much barbecue, you know, as I can eat. Yeah. But my wife doesn't eat dry meat. She just calls it, I don't want to eat dry meat. It's like, man, dry brisket's the best thing out there.
Yeah.
But she has to have a barbecue sauce to dip it in. And so you're your barbecue sauce. It's been very handy.
Oh,
We put it in our purse and go eat barbecue. So I cannot thank you enough for sending me that. That was
you're
so good.
welcome. We have a new version that's going to be coming out in
Oh,
first quarter. That's a hot and spicy version.
hot and spicy version.
Hot and spicy.
Okay. Yeah, we did try the Thai chili. That was pretty good. The
Nice.
ketchup was really good. The barbecue
Nice.
sauce and the steak sauce. Boy, that's you really did yourself on those.
Thank
The
you. I
steak
appreciate
sauce
that.
apparently. Steak sauce really. I mean I eat that on my hamburger patties, and it's really good. So yeah, I really appreciate you making that.
That's
So
my pleasure.
you developed these all these condiments and these sauces and
Mm-hmm.
these sweeteners, which we hadn't really talked about the sweeteners.
Mm-hmm.
You've yeah, let's go back to the sweeteners a little bit.
Okay.
You've developed a blend
Yeah.
of what, like stevia, allulose, and I want to say monk fruit, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
How did you develop that? What made you decide that?
Well, so I do a lot of reformulation, for companies. So if a consumer, a good company wants to, lean into clean label sugar reduction and open up their audience a little bit more, they'll
Okay.
send their products to me to actually have them reformulated. So a lot of times you're using a combination of sweeteners because people, like manufacturers are looking for things that have a certain level of functionality. And so the sweetener that I sent you, which is the allulose stevia monk fruit blend, that one in particular is a very functional sweetener. So allulose is really, really new. I mean, it just really hit the market about 5 years ago
Yeah.
in very limited amounts. So that's when I started working with it. And now it's finally scalable where we can keep up with demand. But allulose is a really interesting sweetener because it's actually made with a specific bacteria that when you use that bacteria in a fructose substrate, it actually converts that fructose over to allulose. And
Really?
allulose is not digestible by the body, but it still functions as a saccharide. So a saccharide is a sugar, and with sugars, you do get certain kinds of functionality. Like in a barbecue sauce, you get like caramelization, and that's actually called the Maillard effect, and it's the interaction of proteins and sugars that cause that sort of caramelization. It also activates yeast. So if in low sugar baking and cooking, it will actually activate yeast. So you'll get your cookies, breads, whatever you're trying to do, use it for to rise. Allulose also has a mouthfeel or a consistency very similar to sugar. So
Okay.
if you drink a regular Diet Coke in comparison to a regular Coke, you notice a difference in mouthfeel. Like Diet Coke is going to feel thinner in your mouth, where like a regular Coke is going to have a little more viscosity and a bigger mouthfeel to it. So allulose actually brings that to the table.
Yeah. So once a month we have Carrie Brown on. She's a kind of a cooking expert, and she's a big believer in allulose. A lot of her recipes, a lot of her like bread type recipes, like cookies and things like that, and a lot of her ice cream recipes. She really goes hard on the allulose. In fact, she was just telling me the other day how excited she is because she's seen a pretty significant, I guess, price drop in allulose over the last 6 months or so. And I don't know what caused that, but it's good. It's good news for us.
Well, it's become more competitive because more people are manufacturing it. So it used to be that there was only one manufacturer, and we wouldn't get into that market unless we knew we had multiple supply chain partners, because we deal in pretty high volumes.
Yeah.
And if we don't have multiple supply chain partners and you run that risk of running out of product, it's a great way to get your business to shut down.
Oh yeah, I bet. I bet. Nothing like the insurmountable problems. Okay.
That's true.
Well, that's good. So you've got how is the business doing now?
I'd like to think that we're crushing it. The book's doing well. Condiments, I mean, keeping up with demand is always always a challenge for us. And the clean label sugar reduction category, like keto and paleo, I mean, grew last year at 38%. So the market's super solid.
Yeah, it's definitely growing in volume. which is great, because that's the one nice thing now, as opposed to when I first started this 7 or 8 years ago, however long it was there was zero products. I mean, there just
Right.
weren't anything. There just wasn't anything. If I wanted, ice cream or whatever, I had to go make it myself. It was really, really hard to get any kind of sugar-free anything. And in fact, I remember, is it French's? I think French's came out with a no sugar added ketchup 3 or 4 years ago. Man, that was like the best day of my life. I was like, finally, look at this ketchup.
Nice.
Because we've been eating mustard on everything, because it's the only thing that doesn't have sugar or seed oils. And here is finally just a sugar-free ketchup. I was so excited. We don't eat it very much, but boy, it was sure nice to have in the repertoire. But I got to say, the ketchup you've got is much better. There's a little bit more of a, I don't know what you'd say, a little bit more of a, like a little spice to it. Like
there is. It's actually from a real ketchup recipe. So like when you look at Heinz ketchup, basically it's tomato paste and sugar and high fructose corn syrup and some vinegar. But this uses like a lot of different spices like ginger and star anise and cloves.
I was going to say cloves, because it's got a little bit of that tang to it. It's not it's not like pumpkin spice, ketchup or anything, but it's good. It's really, really good.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So what's next for Guy Gone Keto? And is that what you? So Guy Gone Keto, that's like your personal brand? But what do you call
it's my
your
side
products?
hustle.
Okay.
It's my side hustle. So I just thank you. I just I made the brand because it was products that I wanted to use. And I just found that they were super popular, and that the brand was growing like organically, like really, really fast. What's the future hold? Every day I play around in the lab, and I've got new products coming out every day. So I would venture to guess that, in Q1, we'll probably have 6 more SKUs. And before the end of 2020, we'll probably add 10 more on top of that. So we've got bake mixes, chips, hydration systems.
Oh, chips.
Yep.
That's the other thing we're missing.
The chips are really good. So we, on our ingredient side, we sell about 1 million pounds of chocolate chips every year. And so we'll be putting those in Guy Gone Keto bags and getting those out probably within the next 30 days. And they're rock solid chips.
Oh yeah! In fact, my daughter was just telling me that she bought some sugar-free chocolate chips, and she's going to give them to us because she didn't like them. Who out there is buying or selling sugar-free chocolate chips? So I'll definitely tell her that you're out there selling 1 million pounds of chocolate chips a year.
We sell a lot of chocolate chips, and our recipes for white chocolate chips and toasted marshmallow chocolate chips and butterscotch chocolate chips. Those are all in the R&D queue right now. We should have those out by first quarter.
Fantastic. That sounds wonderful.
Thanks.
Well, once you get your dessert line out, we may have you back on the podcast.
Terrific. I would love that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, Thom King, you can find him at guygoneketo.com. Guy Gone Keto. If you're watching the video, we've got all kinds of cool stuff, including his book, Guy Gone Keto. If they want to follow you on, Instagram or Twitter or all that other stuff, where can they do all that? Is it all Guy Gone Keto?
Guy Gone Keto. So at Guy Gone Keto on all the socials. If they've got questions about keto, they've got questions about our products. Your audience is absolutely, should feel free to direct message me, and I'll get back to them. Like ASAP. I'm pretty good about that.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell my audience before I let you go?
Well, I would like to tell your audience to keep listening to your show,
thank you.
because you're supporting a lot of good people and supporting a lot of worthy causes. And it's been a real pleasure, having you host me. Thank you.
All right. Again, that's Thom King. You can find out more from him at Guy Gone Keto. And thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome, Aaron. I appreciate it.
And guys, we'll be right back with a little more information.